and it lasts longer. And I'm cheap, so I don't want to have to put it out any more often than I have to. Lettuces, again, they are probably less cold hardy than the chard and mustard greens are. So if you're going to grow lettuce in the fall, you're probably, once again, well advised to have a little bit of floating row cover so that you can cover it if the temperature is going to get down in the low 20s or below. Or if you've just planted it and it's just sprouted, it's real tender. I mean, even 28 degrees will probably kill it. So do be prepared to cover it if it is going to get cold. Lettuces simply aren't as cold hardy as some other things. Now, I think one of the very best leafy vegetables you can grow is spinach. And the spinach you grow in your garden doesn't bear any resemblance to the spinach you buy in the store as far as taste and as far as nutritional quality. There have been several reports out recently that say the spinach that you buy in the grocery store has about 5% as much iron as it did 50 years ago. It is just, there are things that plants can grow and put back into the soil. Organic material is a renewable resource. And you can grow cover crops, you can put lots of good things back in the soil by planting plants. But the minerals that are in the soil, the iron, the zinc, nobody is just going to get zinc for the purpose of having zinc, but zinc is a very important component of a lot of different compounds, as are small quantities of copper and molybdenum and all these other fun things that I can't pronounce. But once you take those out of the soil, they're gone. A plant cannot manufacture more iron. You have to keep putting these things back into the soil if you're going to maintain the quality of the produce. And so much of our agricultural land, it's been demineralized. While you can grow big, beautiful plants, they don't have the minerals in it that they once did. I was I'm sure it was something sponsored by the chemical companies, but there's a report that came out recently that said organic produce has no more, I've forgotten what the word was, than conventional stuff. Well, they're measuring sugars in there. And it's true, organic produce doesn't have necessarily any more carbohydrates and sugars than conventionally produced produce. The big difference is in the minerals that it contains and the compounds that are derived from these minerals. So, if you're adding compost, you're putting minerals back in the soil. If you're using this sort of fertilizer, you're putting minerals back in the soil. If you're adding green sand and things like that, you're putting minerals back in the soil. Back to spinach. You can grow excellent spinach that tastes better and is a whole lot healthier for you than anything you're buying in the grocery store. Now, just a couple of things about spinach. It takes colder weather for spinach seed to germinate. So if you want to get an earlier start on your spinach, buy plants where the grower has chilled things and gotten it started early. If you're going to plant spinach from seed, you're going to have to wait probably till the end of October before the soil is really going to be cold enough to get your spinach to grow well. And spinach will pretty much produce all winter long. Spinach is pretty cold hardy. I even had this year in my vegetable garden when I was planting my tomato plants early. I set out, a grower gave me a whole flat of spinach. He said I grew too much, you want this? I put out my tomato cages, like this, and then I put 2 little spinach plants on either side in between. And I harvested beautiful spinach up until about the 1st of June. And then the tomatoes really kicked into full production. The heat got the spinach. Eventually the drought got everything. But grow some spinach. If you like spinach, it is delicious as a leafy green, or you can cook it. There are a lot of different things you can do with spinach, but it's one of those easy crops. And again, it's not just that it's super healthy, which it is, but it is the spinach that you will grow is so much better than anything you're going to buy in the grocery store. Yes, sir.
I know I have a lot of questions today, but we use raised buckets. We call them cedar buckets. And we'll usually have like one plant, tomato plant, for example. So the spinach, it doesn't need a lot of room. You say
plant it right around the base.
Right around the base of the other plants.
But remember that spinach is a cool weather crop. You're not going to be growing it at the same time you're growing your peppers and your eggplant and things like that. And broccoli and cauliflower and things tend to spread out at the base. They're not very many upright growing things, although we're going to talk about snow peas in just a minute. But there's no reason with your big barrel, if you want to put some garlic in the middle and some spinach around the edge, or some onions in the middle, some spinach around the edge, or just, you know, there's nothing wrong with planting something strictly as a decorative type planter. When Amanda worked for us for several years, she made the most incredible little pots combining red lettuce and green lettuce and some parsley and just little mixed plantings like that. You can grow something like that and harvest from it.
We've got about 50 or 75 plants already besides the garden, so yeah,
Okay.
that's not.
Yeah. Yes.
How much sun to get best production?
Full sun.
All day?
All day sun. Lettuce will grow with half day, but the best production is going to be where you pretty much have full sun. Yes, ma'am.
We have the discussion about what size it should be when we pick it. Can you,
Experiment. The flavor will be slightly different, and of course, the bigger it gets, the fewer leaves you have to pick. I like them sort of 2/3 grown, but that is strictly up to you. Okay, one more, and then we'll go to root crops. Yes, sir.
When do you harvest the beets? How big?
We'll talk about root crops next.
Okay.
Any other questions about leafy things? Yes, ma'am.
So is there something in particular you have to spray on the spinach too? It's like a leaf, like the lettuce? No? So you just...
Watch for pill bugs and slugs and things, but they'll if you plant some lettuce, you'll find them on the lettuce before you find them on the spinach. There's some little beetles that seem to get after spinach a little later in the spring, but again, the DE takes care of that real easy.
Okay.
What variety of spinach?
I like Melody. Melody is the one that seems to grow best here. Bloomsdale is another variety that's been grown for years, but if you're looking for a newer variety, the Melody is one that really produces. But again, experiment. Probably the most important thing that you can do as gardeners, in addition to just good cultural techniques, is keep records. Because there's nothing more frustrating than planting 4 varieties of lettuce, 3 of them do beautifully and 1 of them does lousy, or the other way, 1 does great and 3 of them do lousy. And then you look back and say, now which one was which? And you know the little seed packages have now bleached out, the pill bugs ate the paper out of those things, and you have no idea which was which. So you've just lost 6 months of research. What I did in my old garden is I sunk a cedar post in the ground, and I took an old rural mailbox, you know, the same thing that lots of us, you know, had for a long time, and I mounted that on the post out there. And if you open my mailbox right now, you're going to find my garden gloves, my pruning shears, a little journal that I can make notes in. Because, you know, you think you're going to remember when you get back to the house. You're not going to. Keep a pencil and just a little pad out there and make notes of what you plant, when you plant it, anything that you think's appropriate. And believe me, next year you'll be really glad that you had last year's notes. Now, there are a lot of very young people here that probably your memories are still very, very good. But somebody always told me it's not that aging affects your memory, it's just that your brain gets so full there's no room for new information. At least that's my story. But write this stuff down. Keeping records will be the most important thing you do. Okay, yes?
I have an eggplant question. Is this the right time?
Oh, why not? It's the wrong season for eggplant, but...
You recommended to me a couple months ago the Ichigo.
Mhm.
So I planted those, and the little flowers didn't really set because of the drought and everything. So I kept on with them. I didn't pull them out, and lo and behold, and liquid seaweed, and lo and behold, this past week, I now have probably 10 little baby eggplants.
Good.
Should I keep up with them?
Oh yeah,
or-
absolutely. Keep fertilizing. I had not been in my garden to look at plants in probably 6 weeks. Kendall County, we just had to give up water. And I was amazed. I went out, I still had some insulate around the bottom of the cages. Lo and behold, my eggplant was still alive, about 80% of it. So I pruned it back, dumped some fertilizer on it, and if it stays warm, I'll harvest eggplant. I was very much surprised. Yes, ma'am?
Do they still use a stuff called bloom set or something for tomatoes?
Blossom set is a joke. Don't be tempted by it. It will make fruit set, but then the fruit doesn't grow. I mean, you can go out and spray Blossom set on your tomatoes, and boy, those blooms will stop falling off, and you'll have a little tomato about the size of a marble. It won't ever get any bigger. So don't waste your money on Blossom set. Certainly. Okay, root crops. Oh, yes, sir.
What do you do when you can't water? How do you keep the dang things alive?
You don't. I had no garden at all this summer. I harvested fewer tomatoes and peppers and eggplants, but you know, again, this is a bad drought. This is a worst drought in history when you would look at well levels and things. And we had wells going dry all over our part of the world. And quite frankly, I love my garden, but given the choice between the water that I drink and bathe with and the vegetable garden came number 2 this year. Hopefully, I mean, it's been 60 years since, or 50 years since we even had a